Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to all of you who are joining us for our local resource meeting for BSN. We've got a long list of things that people have sent in and other suggestions we've gotten from group members. So let's get started. Is Elizabeth M. Robin, is everybody that's on the meeting at the top then? Is that, or do we have?
I think this is all who's here, and I don't see Elizabeth M.
Okay, all right. I'm going to change this to gallery, make it a little bit easier for me.
And also, this is a Stanford meeting too. Stanford.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm
That's
just
right.
at the top. Stanford, of course, has to be mentioned in this too. So anyway, so our first topic is getting organized, and group member Elizabeth M. had suggested a couple things. The first one is meal train. And I'm not familiar with that at all. Are you, Robin? I don't know what that.
I think what it is, and I'll start. And Denise, you can help to put things into chat. And by the way, we're recording this, so the video will be available. And also, Denise, Stephen, Candy, and I and Diane helping too, been putting together a big spreadsheet, and we'll share it like we did for the last meeting, our gadget meeting. So meal train, I think, is a way where like if you can invite family members to or friends to help either provide a meal for you and your family member with Parkinson's or with whatever neurological disease on a certain day at a certain time, or you can give people gift cards for, they can list what restaurants they like PF Chang's or whatever. And it's just a way to organize it all.
Okay, so just an online organizational thing, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then the second one she mentioned was lots of helping hands, helping people on health journey. And again, I don't know if you can shed some light on that.
Same idea, except for it's not limited to food. So it's, and I'll put the other one down that a lot of people know about, which is caringbridge.org. So these are places where you can say, my husband needs to go to see a doctor or needs to go to a physical therapist this day, this time. Is there anybody out in my community, my support community, who can help with that? Or is there anybody who can help with a meal or help with, hey, we need to have a new supplier for Depends. Can anybody investigate that? So it's a way, again, to organize tasks, caregiving tasks that need to be done, and friends and family can sign up for the tasks. Has anybody participated in any of those things? Diane, go for it.
I did about probably 5 or 6 years ago, the lots of helping hands. I set up a system where neighbors would bring foods daily. We found out that everybody brought too much, so we changed it to every other day. Somebody would be scheduled to bring meals for the entire day. Both husband and wife were suffering big illnesses, and it worked very well.
CaringBridge is not like that. CaringBridge is more of, it's a place to post updates on unwell person's progress, so that they don't have people coming at them from all sides saying, how you doing, how you doing, how you doing. That's more what CaringBridge is structured as.
Okay, good to know. Well, that would be helpful. And then Denise, this is one of your suggestions, Caregiver Notebook template from Springwell. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I like, I found this on the Daily Caring blog, and I'll put it in the chat. This particular page talks about this. It's templates for different sections in a binder, so you can keep track of medications in this section and appointment notes in that section, and emergency contacts with another tab. So you can keep track of the whole history of somebody's care, and then leave it for, as you have caregivers come in or family and friends volunteering to stay with them, so that they have all the information in one place. And I just thought that was genius. That,
Yeah, it's probably something you can share too, I would
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, okay. That would be very helpful. Okay, so moving on, our next,
Oh, can you do the Every Victory Counts one? Catherine's not
oh,
here.
I'm sorry, I didn't see
Yeah,
that.
that's
Yeah,
okay.
where's Catherine?
She's not here, but
Okay,
yeah, so there's a really good, Davis Finney Foundation has a really good manual called Every Victory Counts. And it's, while it has a lot of things there specific for Parkinson's disease, I wouldn't necessarily think it has to be specific to people dealing with Parkinson's, but it's a good way to track. They have things on tracking your symptoms. They have messages, sort of uplifting messages every day. They have reminders about sleep hygiene and how much hydration you're supposed to be taking. So it's a really cool way also to get organized.
And they have one for the person with Parkinson's, and they have a co-manual for care partners.
Oh, cool.
wow,
Yeah.
yeah, that's very cool, yeah. Okay, so, all right, so moving on then to exercise. Denise, you had a couple things to talk about here. List of PD exercise videos. You said lots are seated, and there are 58 listings on the page. Oh, that's
Yeah, see, I tell people all the time that we posted on our website that we have live exercise classes and exercise videos. And I always get a look in somebody's eyes like, yeah. But I don't think you people understand. We have 60 different exercise videos, live classes to try, and most of them post their classes to like YouTube or something afterwards. So you can, if you liked a particular workout, you can go back and do it again and again and again. I think it's an overlooked resource.
okay. So is this on the BSN website then?
It
that what you
is.
said? Okay,
Yeah.
great.
No, it's on the Stanford
Stanford.
website.
It's on the Stanford website. Yeah, on
Okay.
the Stanford website.
Okay.
Yeah.
The-
So
the Stanford Parkinson's disease website. See, I'm not familiar with the Stanford
Yeah,
side.
not
but-
Shame
everyone
on
would
you.
have access
know,
to the
right?
Stanford website.
I'll
Yeah.
put the link to them in the chat.
Okay,
Okay, good.
And Denise had put together that web page, so she's justifiably proud of it.
okay. Well, there you go. That's all
I
right.
had help finding all of those. All right,
Great.
there's the exercise videos, and then I'll put the classes, and I'll put the videos up too.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you.
And okay, yeah, we might take a slight detour here to go down to local exercise resources, because I see Doug here. So Doug, maybe do you want to talk about Teresa Najjar's class?
Yes, thank you. I met my wife and I'm the caregiver. I met Teresa when she was volunteering at the Redwood City Veterans Senior Center. And this goes back 2.5 years ago. And when COVID hit, she was quick to arrange that for Zoom. And so she still conducts free Thursday morning classes under the umbrella of the Redwood City Senior Center on Thursday mornings. She also has privately Monday and Tuesday mornings. And Christine and I love it. Her exercise classes are more vigorous than the dancing for Parkinson's you'll find at Mark Morris Dance Center in New York. We also exercise with friends on the island of Malta, where we found this group through the Mark Morris website. Certainly the Stanford website points to Mark Morris, and Mark Morris in turn points to a number of them around the world. And At Malta, it is 6:30 in the evening, Malta time, which is 9:30 in the morning, our time. So we help support that operation.
And
But we,
can you understand, is it in English? Can you understand them?
they used to be a British colony, and English is
Well,
one of
there you
their
go.
2 languages. And
Can you
because-
share a link to the Malta class?
Yes, Step Up for Parkinson. I will locate that and put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
So anyhow, we do plenty of exercise, and we think the world of it. It's makes our day. I think it's important, quite important to us that we exercise live, because it makes it happen. Otherwise, there's so many marvelous recordings available, and we do plug holes with those, but the live ones keep us motivated.
Is it a Zoom format where you can see one another dancing?
The yeah,
Oh,
absolutely,
that's
yes.
fun. Yeah, great.
With yes, you can choose between gallery view and speaker view.
Okay.
With Teresa 3 times a week, and with Malta. Now they're going back to in person over in Malta, which too bad for us, because we can now only attend on Wednesdays.
Mm. Okay, well, thank you for that. That sounds very interesting and very fun for people. I hope everybody can take advantage of that, because exercise is really important, as we all know. So, yeah.
I might mention that at the Mark Morris place, they have marvelous videos that you can download. And as a member, you can download even more. And I have purchased their DVDs, and Christine just loves the way they explain the ballet aspects of it all, and why and how they think.
And they're on those exercise pages on our website.
Okay, and we'll send out we'll find that specific link to the Mark Morris one and send that out too.
There we go. Okay, that's great. Well, thank you for that. Okay, so if we're moving on here, buying equipment and supplies, does anybody have any resources that they'd like to share, online medical equipment supply stores, or any other places that you've been able to get medical equipment and supplies? Anybody have anything? If not, we'll just move on.
For the incontinence, the HDIS worked well when I was working with Gary, and I've talked to other people that are still using it too.
Okay, great.
It's, yeah.
There's a place called Live Anew for getting incontinence products. They're really friendly, and I really, really like them. Live Anew.
Could you put it in the chat?
Yes.
Thanks, Michelle.
They're very knowledgeable too. Live Anew.
Okay.
I don't know
great.
if Live Anew, but yeah, I'm just going to put this Live Anew.
Yeah, we've used 101 Mobility and for medical equipment, and they seem to be pretty responsive.
Okay, good. Can you add that? Do you have a link?
Yeah, I will. Oh, yeah, please do add 101mobility.com, you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure. They have different, I think they're franchised, but the one we worked with was out of San Mateo.
Okay, could you try to find the link, Doug?
Yeah, or I can give you a phone number. That would probably,
Oh, that'd be fine. Either one's good.
okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, that's great. That's helpful suggestions there too. So moving on to online support groups. We had a PSP Health Unlocked PSP Association group. I don't see Marnie here. Robin, do you know anything about this particular?
Yeah, Marnie really likes this group. It's for people with PSP or their caregivers, and it's mostly people in the United Kingdom.
Okay.
But there are some people in the US who attend that group, and I'll send out a URL for it. She likes that group a lot.
Okay. All right, and then Denise, the Parkinson disease online groups, you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think what Robin has listed here in the spreadsheet are online support groups that are more like forums, but there are actually live video support groups, just like we've been doing our local support groups by Zoom. And I think those are more useful. So I'll put the link in the chat to those, but there's some really interesting ones for Parkinson's because different organizations around the country have sorted them sort of into groups. So there's groups that anyone can join. And some of them have a focus, like one of them is a mindfulness focused group. But there's also some for just with people with Parkinson's, just for men, just for women with PD, caregiver only groups, adult child caregiver groups, young onset, newly diagnosed, single with Parkinson's. They call it flying solo. And there's also at least one, three bereavement, Parkinson's bereavement.
Wow. So
I'll put the link to this page in the chat too, because I think it's a great stopgap because they're live. And if, especially if you can't get out, and if groups go back to meeting in person locally exclusively and you don't have a support, you can always tap into one of these.
Right. So would somebody that had a loved one or that had a Parkinson-like disease, are they included in it too? I mean, like our atypical Parkinson's diseases that, can they join into something like that, or?
I would think so. Parkinson's adjacent would probably work. I would think fine. Yeah. And I mean, the answer is always no until you ask the question, right? So if you find a group that's the right time when you can join, you can always ask and say, these are my circumstances. The links on our website give you connection to the coordinator for the group. Most of them don't just have a Zoom link that's randomly available and you can anybody can log in. They have to RSVP first, just like our groups.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for that. That's awesome. Okay. So moving on here, unless anybody else got anything there. Okay. So online meditation or mindfulness, Denise, you kind of brought that up with the,
there's one of those video support groups that's kind of focused on that. And anybody is welcome.
Wow, you would think, for just regular people could do that too. I mean, even if you weren't sick, it would be helpful. Yeah.
Right. So I found a couple. There's one that's offered by WellMed Charitable Foundation in Texas, and they do a drop-in mindfulness session every day during the week, Monday through Friday, 3 times a day, excepting on Tuesdays. It's at 6 a.m., 10 a.m., and 1:30 here on the West Coast time. And then they do 20 minutes of mindfulness, and then they do 10 minutes of sharing. So I'll put that in, there's a Zoom link for that, no registration required because it's drop-in. And then also UCSF has Monday through Friday, just noon daily, Monday through Friday, for just 15 minutes and no registration required. So you can kind of get your mindfulness in with some guided, meditation.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, they leave you hanging on the weekends, but
I know that's your practice time, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. And then mindful, Catherine added this mindful self-compassion workbook. And that can be put in the chat box. Do you have knowledge of this, Robin? Have you ever seen this?
I have not, but I've heard about these two authors. Kristen Neff's quite well known in the mindfulness community. And so I imagine probably anything she's written is worthwhile.
Okay, great.
I'll put that there. And then I just mentioned a couple others, calm.com and headspace.com are widely used.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and one thing to think about for both of those, I have Calm now through Kaiser. So oftentimes if you have a Advantage program with Medicare or Social Security Medicare, they will include that. That's part of the program. So keep an eye out for that, or at least ask. They may very well give you a
Right. And other
reduced
health,
rate link.
other
So-
health
so it's
providers might do the same.
Provided for free, Stephen?
Yes.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't listen. Out of control.
Okay. All right. So moving on to online activities. Yulene, who I don't see her on the chat, but she added post-science brain HQ game. So I'm assuming it's just online games for brain stimulation.
Yeah, she mentioned this at a recent BSN support group meeting. She said she prefers brainhq.com over Luminosity. And
Okay.
her mother has a PSP, and she gives that as an activity for her mother, just to keep the mother's brain engaged. And I
Right.
thought it was a good idea.
Okay. All right. And then moving on to how-to videos for caregivers. We talked a little bit about, obviously the online exercise programs, but the notes on this are Parkinson's Foundation, 17 how-to videos, easy home safety modifications, plans and scheduling, movement and falls, dressing, meals, swallowing, bathroom, thinking changes, medications, and general health activities at home. Travel and sports, rest and sleep, where to find help, caring from afar, and end-of-life care, and caring for the CG, which is the caregiver, I'm assuming. Yeah. So, boy, that's a lot. That's a lot of information there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you added the link for that, and that's through Stanford. So, yeah, that's great. A lot of good information there. So Denise, can you tell us anything about that? Is this kind of your,
Well,
Do you-
those videos are from the CareMap program at Parkinson's Foundation, and those are focused on advanced Parkinson's disease.
okay,
So some of them might help in mid stages, like the easy home safety, getting clutter off cables, carpets, that lighting, that kind of stuff. For mid stages, especially, I would think when freezing starts to become a problem. So that I don't consider that kind of advanced Parkinson's, but some of the others are, helping somebody in the bathroom, and meals and swallowing are really for advanced stages. So you kind of got to look through those videos and see where you're at,
Right.
if there's something helpful.
well, I know with MSA, it depends on the disease. Now that swallowing and all that was more, with us anyway, was more mid-stage. I mean, Bob was
Yeah.
still walking, but he was having trouble swallow. I mean, the swallow thing was becoming more of a problem. So,
Yeah.
it just depends, I think, on the disease, when that sort of thing would be helpful. So,
Mhm.
yeah, this is like a lot of great information, I think, right there.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, Tipa Snow has a lot of videos that are how to help your loved one when they're in the later stages also.
mhm.
And
Yeah,
she's
those are-
focused on dementia and
Mhm.
understanding, communicating.
Yes.
Yeah, Denise, could you find maybe the link to her site? We should add that for sure.
Sure.
Okay, and then Denise, this is another note of yours, is Borrow Neurological Institute, how-to videos on helping people in and out of bed. So this is all more that kind of practical
Mhm.
information, in and out of bed, off the couch, using a gait belt, installing and using bed rails, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, and this is a little easier, so just sort through. They just have 11 videos.
Okay,
Yeah, and
And
it's mostly
then-
helping somebody move around.
yeah, and
Yeah.
just getting up and down, basically, right?
Mhm.
And another one you added was Parkinson's Foundation Care Map, helping people to get in and out of bed. Okay, so that's the same kind of.
That's the first one, right? And
Okay,
and the
all
gate
right.
that one. Yeah.
Okay, great. So quick care videos. Okay, so that's all included in what we've just talked about. And then, or is this, Stephen, can you?
Yeah,
is there
so
anything you
Robin
can
asked
say
me
about
to
that?
look
I'm
at.
sorry. Yeah, it's a
That's
different.
okay.
topic.
Robin asked me to look at these videos from WellMed. And you sign up for a service and they send you a newsletter. And they say a daily tip for caregiving, but I found they're actually about 3 times a week. And it's relatively unobtrusive once you sign up. It's not like you're constantly being bombarded with information. It's very, very practical. And the nice thing is it's very short. So there are 1 to 2 minutes long videos telling you how to do very specific things. One I liked was figuring out people who have problems with their writing. A lot of it, because if they don't have arthritis, where it's hard to close the hand, with Parkinson's, you can't form the correct hand movement to write. So they give you some tips about how to bulk up whatever writing instrument you're using to make it easier to use. And it's very clear, very simple, add some rubber bands here, do that. But I thought a lot of them, some of them were a little too simple, but I think for where it's appropriate. And the newsletter is actually pretty interesting. It gives you links to other, a little more in depth if you're interested in doing that. So, and it comes once a week, so you can say, not interested this weekend. And you can go on the webpage and find a lot of them too. So it's a nice little resource just to kind of keep for really practical things.
Awesome. Okay. All right. And so, Diane, this is your addition. Tipa Snow videos on dealing with dementia and behavior. Can you tell us about that?
Well, she just mentioned
did.
it. I'm sorry, I added
Yeah.
it to the list
Yeah.
lower. Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
you've
just
already-
put the link in the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
All
good.
right.
There's just 7 of them, so it's not a lot to slog through. And they're
Okay.
titled by sort of topic.
Mhm.
So you can sort of see again what might apply to your situation.
And you can scroll down through the list of them and make your choices, whatever applies.
Mhm.
And they're always very good, very helpful.
Mhm. Yeah, she's excellent.
Okay. All right. So our next topic here is finding legal help, which I know can be a difficult thing sometimes. So National Association of Elder Law Attorneys. Robin, can you talk about this? Obviously, you just search this and do a geographic search and find.
I can enter the link into the chat. So NAELA is the National Association of Elder Law Attorneys, and it's a fantastic website to just find elder law attorneys, and they can help not only with trust, but they also help with advanced care planning documents. So healthcare, power of attorney, living will, those kinds of things. And so if you need to have a handy source to find a good resource, that's a good place. I've used it many times, both for my father-in-law, many people. It's just a good resource for attorneys.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So moving on to advanced care planning tools, end of life planning. Stanford webpage includes links to multiple sources, including the NIH, 5 Wishes, ARP, Compassion and Choices, ABA, My Directives, the Conversation Project, Coalition for Compassionate Care, National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, webinars, podcasts, books, movies, and card games. And then the link will be posted there in the chat for this as well. So there's a lot of information there, obviously. So.
And then Lily in particular, she said she really liked 3 of those. It's the Conversation Project, 5 Wishes.
There we go.
And,
Okay.
and Go Wish. And Go Wish, for people who are not familiar with it, it's a terrific, it's a card game, basically modeled after Go Fish, if any of you remember playing that when you're a little kid. And so there are, I don't know, say like 30 cards, and each card has a particular statement. Like one statement is, I don't want to be in pain, or I'd like my children with me, or I'd like my pet with me, or I'd like my priest with me. And so they say different things, and you identify which ones resonate the most strongly with you for what you want at the end of life. And then you try to winnow it down to just a few. And so I've done this many times with many family members, and myself included, and you try to get it down to, maybe 5 or 6 that are meaningful. And then what we have done in our family is we've made photocopies of the cards, and then we've written notes on. So for example, one of the cards says, I don't want to have my family inconvenienced. And a family member selected that card, and I said, what do you mean by that? What are you envisioning? And he said, well, if I'm near the end of my life, I don't want my children live hundreds of miles away from me. I don't want them to have to drop their work and drop their school and rush to see me. I don't want them inconvenienced. And well, that's not a decision that I would make, but that's his decision, and that's what he wants at the end of his life. So we've written notes about that, and then when the time comes, we'll adhere to his wishes. So it's a really cool, it's a card game. It comes in a hard copy card game, but it's also online. You can sort of, play the game online as well. So there's 3 good resources that Lily wanted to share with people.
And they're all on
Sorry,
the
I
Stanford
skipped over
page
that.
that I just put in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Denise. Yeah, I jumped ahead on the end of life planning, because that game sounds really interesting. That's a good thing to do at Thanksgiving, huh?
Yeah, we do it at Thanksgiving, actually. Did I tell you about that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, many years we do it at Thanksgiving, and we try to wait till after dessert.
Right.
So
Right.
not to upset people and that they don't leave. But we haven't done it in a while, and it's good to do, every, I don't know, 5 or 10 years when things have changed. It's a good idea to.
Right. Yeah. That's a tough one. I mean, if somebody doesn't want their kids inconvenienced, that'd be tough for the kids, maybe to, that's a good, I mean, at least they give people time to talk about it,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one other one that this same family member selected is, he said, I want to have my dignity preserved. And we asked him, well, what do you mean by that? What do you hear when you read that, or what do you think of? And he said, well, if when my depends are changed, I don't want any family members in the room. I only want there to be a nurse or an aide or somebody else. I don't want family members to be there. So that's really good information. Good to know in advance.
Yeah. And then everybody can do their best, right?
That's right.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so now we're moving on to local resources, and Dag, is he still with us
Oh,
here?
he talked about that class already.
Okay, earlier. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah. And then Catherine's
not here.
Yeah. PD Connect, and that's the Lee Silverman voice training, right? Big exercise.
It's actually Lee Silverman Big. It's a physical therapy.
Oh, it is. Okay. So that's different than the voice.
Yeah.
The voice thing was very helpful for us. We did that. So
yeah. Lee Silverman was helpful for you guys?
Yeah, we did part of it. We just not so much through the Parkinson's Institute, not such a formal class, but just kind of figured out what they, basically I read about it, what they were doing. And then I would just have Bob kind of try to do those voice exercises. I mean, we didn't do the formal training, but it really did help, actually, just get him to like project, make loud sounds, so.
Doug, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, I wanted to add, you asked me before about local training or resources for exercise. And Christine and I have, based on a book we read, we're working hard to increase the intensity. And so we now walk briskly. I hang on to her. She has a belt with handles on it, around lane 9 at the Angel athletic field in Stanford, next to the Stanford Visitor Center. We also have enjoyed the Palliative High athletic field, and you can go to any high school. They're all open to the public, and walk around very safe, a very precisely measurable distance. You can look up athletic field on the web and see the lane 9 is 460 meters, 0.61. And we time it and we keep track of our progress, because the more exercise, the more intense exercise for a long time, supposedly, I believe the literature, releases neurotropic factors that help regenerate neurons in your brain. So I just thought I'd add that local resources, the athletic fields, walking around the track. We try to do it every other day, but it's become every 3 days.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah. Because, most communities, all the high schools have those tracks now, it seems like. So, yeah, that's a great idea, actually. Okay. All right. So moving on to help for caregivers. Robin, this is one of your notes. Is the Family Caregiver Alliance.
Oh, yeah. Why don't we have Diane talk about that? Diane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Family Caregiver Alliance has lots of wonderful classes. You can sign up with them. Of course, now I'm talking 10 years ago when I was working with Gary, but I know they had classes to help you know what to go through each different stage. They had classes on helping the caregiver to take care of yourself, which was very important. Christina Irving was the standout instructor that I found absolutely the most helpful. And they have online, even on Facebook, and I have clicked onto their Facebook, and they've got just lists and lists and lists of helpful information everywhere. I totally love Family Caregiver Alliance.
Okay, great. Good to know. I didn't realize they had classes like that. That's awesome. Yeah. And of course, our local support group, I'm sure everybody on this call, though, is aware of, of our support group, obviously, but, it's always good. We're always here for people too, so all those things are very helpful. Okay, so.
Well, and I also included the other 10 caregiver resource centers that are around California. So they're it's right after the line you were on this.
Okay.
And the reason I included that is because they've started doing, if you go to the link I put, you can sign up, and they actually are doing educational programs online now as well for all of, not just a specific caregiver resource center, but for all of them. They're really trying to get people to realize you can find help no matter where you are in California. So if you have relatives, for instance, that are out of the area, or you have a second home outside of the area, it's really helpful to know you've got similar, not nearly as well developed as Family Caregiver Alliance, but really good resources across the state. So I just wanted to make sure people knew it's not, Family Caregiver Alliance is, I think, head and shoulders above everybody else, but everyone, there are a lot of remote areas where there are literally no resources, but the CC, California Caregiver Resource Centers.
Okay.
So
And the thing about Family Caregiver Alliance, and I imagine this is true for the other ones, is they all receive very small government grants and foundation grants, and they provide to caregivers one-on-one counseling. It's very short term. So Diane mentioned Christina Irving, and she was my counselor as well. I contacted Family Caregiver Alliance and got in touch with her. And so this is usually social workers, they're educated healthcare professionals, and they assess your level of stress. And then they come back several months later and assess your level of stress again after they've given you some techniques or encourage you to take some classes or things. And then they also use some of that grant money that they've received to turn around and provide grants to individual caregivers for counseling. And they can give you a list of counselors that they work with. And so you can, if you need counseling specific to the fact that you're stressed out from caregiving, they can help with that financially as well.
Okay, wow, that's great. I wish I would have known about that. I wish that was around. Maybe it wasn't around when Bob was sick, but that, because that counseling really, it's important for sure. Yeah, it really helped us. Okay, so I think we've covered everything in that topic area. So now this is help for anyone. California Independent Living Centers.
Stephen can talk about
Yes.
that.
Yeah, so those are basically, depends on how small the county is, but they're basically set up by the state at the county level to provide resources for people living with disabilities of any kind. So it's a wonderful place when you can't think of who else might be able to help to start with, because they can maybe offer help with home remodeling if for safety reasons, transportation. They can give you lots of ideas for that. They're just I've had people in San Mateo County, one person got a stair lift from them. People can donate equipment as they pass on, or the family can, and it's available then. And for the family in my group that got the stair lift, they had a person that was willing to install it for free as well. So
Wow.
it's just a wonderful resource. It's not really, there are some programs that are financially restricted, but most of them are open to anyone dealing with a disability. And they also they don't really have any, a lot of it is volunteer run. So you have to be patient getting answers. Sometimes it takes a while. Just remember that they're volunteers. When I was looking for help for somebody in Alameda County, I had about a 2-hour conversation with somebody who was living with disabilities and had found so much help. She had come back as she got more on her feet to help everyone else. Just a great group of people. So, and it's a really helpful resource. And as I said, they are basically focused on counties, county-based. Santa Clara County, we had somebody that was asking for some help, and I contacted them. And generally, they limit their help to people in Santa Clara County, but if the services aren't available in another county, they're willing to either try to find them for people or provide it for people. So it's just really, really nice people, besides being very resourceful. So.
Awesome. Okay, great. And then is the Village program then separate from?
Yeah, so that's a separate program. Originally started, there's several places you can go on the web. I put a link in so you can find the local villages. All of them charge a fee, an annual fee, to have access to the services. And by their charters, they offer different services to their members. And they also encourage, so if you have lots of free time, and I know nobody on this Zoom has free time, a lot of free time. But if you do, they're always looking for volunteers as well to help out. So they can provide things like local transportation. I work with a couple of local villages who work with local food banks and bring food in periodically for people who are homebound. They have access to people who are people who can do repairs, home repairs, things like that. Can help you with something, you know, it's a light, say a light fixture that's very tall, and yeah, they have people that can come in and help you change light bulbs and do all kinds of things. And then the local villages are also really good at providing social programs. So they'll go to museums, they'll go to plays, mainly local, but sometimes, you know, San Francisco or other places where something's going on. So you have also a social component, and they often have periodic parties, sometimes quarterly parties for their members, just social gatherings as well. So it's a really good program.
Those are coming back to being done now that
Now that things are
almost
open.
out of the COVID.
Yeah. So during COVID, a lot of it was kind of on hold, and some of the villages closed.
Of San Mateo County, and I've been making phone calls to several people on a weekly basis during the COVID, and we've been delivering gifts and things to people when we cannot be together for a social event.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm currently working with the villages.
Good. Thank you.
And so that's open. It's not just people who are disabled or sick. I mean, it
Yeah.
could be an elderly.
So it started as people who were often living on their own. The kids are on one coast and they're on the other. And, you know, maybe people weren't checking on them as frequently as they should have been. So it's a really great social program, as well as the support system, so you can stay home if possible.
So it's like Avenidas is one of them.
Yeah, Avenidas as well.
Are they mostly 55 and up or 65 and up for membership?
Depends. They have different charters for what the group thinks they need in the area. So you know, you can't really say it started off as 55 plus, but it's kind of each. If you look at the chapter arrangements and the people I've worked with in different chapters, they have kind of different rules, and they provide different services depending on what's needed.
And Diane, what's the one you work with? Which village?
I'm with the villages of San Mateo County, which encompasses from Burlingame to Redwood City and the coast.
And is it 55 and up?
Yes, basically.
Okay,
And we
great.
have a lot of, we've got about 300 people in that group, 350, somewhere between 300 and 350 as members, plus almost equal number of volunteers.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
So my little spiel when I'm recruiting, which I did yesterday at CSM, is we volunteer to help seniors so that they can stay in their own homes.
Okay, great. Awesome. Good to know for sure. So, and then we got Doug.
Oh, he already talked about that.
He already did. Okay. Yeah. One-on-one mobility. Yeah, we got that. Okay. And then home care agencies, people bringing their suggestions, someone to come in and cook it and clean. Oh, that was just a note that sometimes a good way to get started with in-home care, because I know a lot of patients are resistant to it at first. They just don't think they want it or need it or whatever. Is to just maybe have somebody come in and clean or cook or whatever, just kind of so the person, the patient basically kind of gets used to having somebody in the house, and then, you know, then they can maybe move along to, you know, more of a caregiving role. And Robin, you've got your note here about home instead.
Oh yeah, one agency I particularly like is Home Instead, especially the Sunnyvale office. They have offices throughout the U.S. in fact, and really like them a lot, especially that office. And Stephen, I know you like a couple of other ones.
Yeah, we've had really good, in my support group, so we've had people use virtually every single home agency.
Yeah.
And almost everybody has had some good experiences and some really disastrous experiences. But two that I've had generally pretty good experiences with are seniors at home. And they provide a lot of other services as well as home aids. They also provide financial planning and care management and other things too. So you have a whole range of things you can do. And also Allegro Care. We've had pretty good luck with them too. I know Robin and I, we don't, as a rule, we don't actually recommend home agencies. But we do encourage people when they're in our support groups to talk about their actual experiences. And so if people want more information, we definitely suggest they come to our support groups and talk to people, because you get on the ground feedback then. And then the other thing, we haven't done any for a while, but when we were doing symposia and educational programs, we would have people come, those companies come, and sometimes they'd bring their own, they'd actually have their employees attend. So it indicated to us that they wanted to learn more about Parkinson's, and that's definitely a good sign. There's very great variations on the in-service care that's provided for home agencies, and it's important that people understand some, not only about Parkinson's, but dementia care and some other things. So
One thing we're finding in the Santa Cruz area is you can't, they don't want to, the care, companies can't provide anybody.
Yeah, that's
a
big issue.
And then they're going to prioritize. So if somebody needs 24-hour care, they're going to get priority over somebody who needs 6-hour care. And, and then they raise the prices. The going rate now in Santa Cruz County for caregivers over $35 an hour. I mean,
Wow.
so the numbers are going up. That's if you can get one.
Yeah. And consistently, that's the other thing. So that's a real issue we're having in my support groups now, is if anyone has a family emergency or becomes ill themselves, even if you're using an agency, we always recommended that, because you would have a backup person, but sometimes even with the agency, you don't get a backup. So that's.
Well, that was why the next one on the list that Candy has is 24/7 senior care. And Pat is in my support group and recommended them because she initially used them for her mother, a few years ago. And then she hired them because her husband has Parkinson's. And in December, she came down with COVID, and they still sent staff to the house to take care of both her and her husband when they knew there was COVID in the house. And they did an exceptional job and hired really good quality people. So she's sold on 24/7 senior care.
Okay, yeah, and that's pretty amazing that COVID, that they would go in the house. That's something, yeah.
Yeah, and the two of them were desperate,
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay, so moving on, where to find private caregivers. Don't go it alone. Get help. Anybody can chime in with this. I know next door, we found our caregiver was word of mouth. A friend of mine's father, or I guess her grandfather, had been sick, had cancer, and he just passed away. And I just ran into her one day out shopping. It was when we were trying to figure out if we should get help at home. And, I asked her, I said, did you guys have anybody? And she said, oh yeah, we had this great guy. And so he came over and was our caregiver part-time until he left the area. And then his sister came in, and she ended up being pretty much full-time by the time, not 24/7, but every day during the week. And then after Bob died, she went to take care of my parents. So we had like this whole generational thing going on with this one caregiver. So we really lucked out with her. I know it's unusual to find somebody that, that's that good and that you keep throughout those many illnesses, but it can happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and she was
Yeah,
private. Yeah.
I've worked with my neighborhood, and I had a caregiving support group just within our neighborhood up until the pandemic, but people are still calling me to ask me who to call. And Mama's Loving Care is a Tongan family that took care of my Gary when
Mhm.
I had him at home. And that started out as being part-time, 3 days a week, to eventually went 24/7. And since then, I have been recommending them to other people in my neighborhood. And Ivani has made that into an actual business.
Oh, wow.
And most of the caregivers are her family, since she has 18 siblings and lots of nieces and nephews. And they've all come from Tonga, and she's making sure that they get training. And at one time, I had 10 different families within my Highlands neighborhood that were using Mama's Loving
Wow.
Care as caregivers. And so far, it's been very, very good. And I'm still getting calls from other people now that are asking me to recommend them too.
Two
Awesome.
things to think about on, if you hire individual caregivers, the first thing is, do they have insurance or not? And a lot of them take cash, which means they don't, which means you have to have insurance. And then,
You should have insurance any which way.
so I mean, but
Always talk to your insurance company if you
Well,
have anybody working in your household.
Yeah.
You typically have to, the new laws are, you gotta make them employees. So if you're gonna pay them, because you're gonna, especially if you're gonna deduct the expense as a medical expense, then they get Social Security benefits and all that. Otherwise, you're running a risk if they get hurt or they get sick or whatever, you're maybe left high and dry. So I had to go to the employment route. I hire them privately, but I withhold like on payroll.
Yeah, I did too.
Right.
I mean, you run the numbers by the time you pay both ends of or Social Security and then charge them, they got to pay it. And by the time you got to carry workers' comp and
Mhm.
state liability and all that, unemployment insurance, I mean, all of a sudden you're, $20 an hour person's going to be $25, $30 an hour.
Right, but you're gonna pay that with an agency. You're gonna pay 35 with an agency.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So
Eliminate the middleman is fine.
I mean, because they're only getting like 18 at the agency, and the agency makes 35, and they pay all the fees. But this way, if you're gonna, we found somebody we've kept, as an employer, and my accountant says you can't deduct it. If you're gonna start, because he had a huge deduction, this last year with medical expenses, and that was it. I could write it off if I did it by cash, whatever. I couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Right.
Barry, are you working with a particular agency you'd recommend?
No, I found somebody through a referral through a speech therapist. But I need a backup because she only works 5 days a week, and I've run through a few people that I've tried privately and hasn't worked out. I've got a friend of mine that has an agency, and he's having trouble finding people
Yeah.
in our area. So like you mentioned, he can't find people, especially for the part-time people that are stopgap. So it's becoming worrisome for me.
So you had initially talked about having to be careful about liability and taxes. So you're throwing caution to the wind and just hiring somebody privately?
Well, a part of the, when you do that, you pay for, you put her on a workers' comp policy. So you deduct for Social Security. The standard taxes, but the workers' comp is the major component of liability. So you put her on a workers' comp policy, and it's not very much. And that covers, any injury that she might, have at home.
So are you working with a CPA or some resource that would be good to share here as to how to put somebody on a workers' comp policy?
Well, the CPA, didn't do it. He just told me to put her on payroll. And I have a business. I added her to my work. Well, I didn't add her to the policy. I got another policy to put her on that. But really, you put her on Social Security, just it's normal withholding. So
Right.
you have disability withholding
Right.
and all that. So it's the same as you would have, hired her.
And Doug, do you have a particular agency you'd recommend? Doug, you're unmuted.
Me,
Yeah.
well, we went, I mean, not just a local. I mean, basically she has her own little practice and she has like 20 or 30 people working for her, but she's not, she's only in the Aptos, Watsonville, Santa Cruz area.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Diane, how about your gal with, you might want to add that to the notes. Where's she based? Does she just do San Mateo County or?
She actually lives in Fremont, but she takes care of a lot of people here in San Mateo. A lot of the caregivers that she has are Palo Alto. Actually, someone called me from LA that she was visiting a friend and had found out her friend in LA area needed some help. She called me to ask if I could give any help. I called Ivani Mama, and guess what? She actually had
Yeah, oh, I'm sure.
relatives
Yeah, yeah.
in the LA area that they found exactly what they needed.
Mhm.
So a lot of times it's word of mouth. Call somebody who's been using somebody that's worked for them
Right.
and see if they can recommend somebody else. Most of my current recommendations, if it's not through Ivani's group, then it's somebody who's worked in our area that they're no longer at that person, so I call them to work with somebody else.
I'd like to have, you can put that agency's information.
Right.
Yes, Mama's Loving Care.
Because I had a Tongan from my mother and they were unbelievable. I mean,
Yes.
certain people just really relish certain kinds of work apparently. And
Yeah.
Mama's Loving Care is
She was great.
MAAMA.
And
Okay.
can you put the phone number in the chat or Ivani's
Yeah.
contact information? or
Yeah, I
something?
will.
That'd be great. Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Thank you.
Diane. Yeah, we had, our caregiver was from the Philippines, and that's another group of people.
Another
that
group,
just,
yes.
Yeah, they love elders and they're just, I don't know, as a group, such kind, patient people, so,
They're so used to taking care of their own.
yeah, yeah.
And everybody that worked for me had originally been taking care of grandmother in Tonga.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think Denise found the URL, so I
There
put it
she
in the
is,
chat. Yeah.
I
I've
love
been
the name.
looking for a Tongan or South Pacific Islander. Sometimes they're Samoan. I've been looking for that connection for my support group for the last week. Somebody, it might have been Susan Weisberg, told me that there is a South Pacific Islander community at the Methodist Church in Palo Alto. So I emailed the pastor there asking, but I hadn't gotten an answer back yet. So thank you.
I'm sure it's the same group.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Same thing with Catholics. There's quite a few Tongan churches, or they have Tongan services. I know St. Francis in East Palo Alto does, and there are a few around the area.
Mhm. Awesome. It's all great resources there. So let's see, moving on here. The subject of geriatric care manager.
Yeah, so this
Robin?
this is a service that not a lot of people know about. If you are, there's so many good applications of a geriatric care manager. One is a care manager could host or facilitate a family meeting. Say that there's a new mom or dad have a new care need, and the kids aren't all on the same page, and some kids are remote and there's a dispute. A geriatric care manager could facilitate a family meeting so that everybody can discuss the issues and be on the same page. A geriatric care manager could, if it could be either a nurse or a social worker, they can take a person to their medical appointments and then give updates to the family as to what happened during the medical appointment. They can also just be another set of eyes. If somebody's living in a care facility, they could go visit the person once a week and just check and make sure the care facility is doing a good job. And so geriatric care manager is a great role to consider. And we have one good agency in the Bay Area, Sage Elder Care, and I'll put them in the chat. And if for some reason they're not in your area, you can also find a good geriatric care manager just by looking on the website caremanager.org, and I'll put that in the chat too. And you can list what location you're in and what specialty you're looking for. If you're looking for a nurse or social worker, that can be really helpful. Has anybody used a care manager here before?
I had a caregiver in one of my groups with an ex-spouse living across the country in independent living, even though every time she went to visit, everyone and all of his neighbors said, please get some help. He should not be here. Surprisingly, the independent living facility was not saying that, because normally that's the very first thing they do is to try to move you to a more expensive level of care. But it was really helpful. She and their son coordinated care from, he was originally in Israel and then in New York. His dad was in Florida and mom was, or ex-mom was here, or still mom, but ex-wife was here. And it really worked out beautifully. She coordinated, there was no communication happening with the medical care team or with where he was living. They found a better place. They got his medications managed. He was able to stay. And then they went to bat with the facility to keep him there when the facility finally realized, oh, we really should be moving you somewhere else. So he got to stay in the community he really wanted to for almost till the end of his life. So it was a wonderful, and it wasn't particularly expensive. And it was a great easing of mind for everybody, for the patient as well as the ex-spouse and the son. So it was a wonderful example of how a care manager can really, really help a situation.
Yeah, I was thinking that's when it would come in most handy, is if you do, you're far away from somebody.
Well, sometimes though, everybody's in the same place and they are in the same physical place, but they're not in the same place at all as to what should be happening. Yeah. And that's the other reason where it's really good to have a care manager, where you can have a independent person kind of sort through everything and, kind of give the pros and the cons and say, okay, I understand that, but then that means this is going to happen. So let's all consider that. So I think I almost always recommend that when families get to that point. Let's find you either a social worker, if there's a really good one in the area, or a nurse that's in the practice where you're going for medicine, or geriatric care manager really can help.
Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so moving on to physical therapists. There's some couple resources here listed from Catherine. She said a great in-home PT, Amy Campasso, who works with ABL Healthcare, and they can go up in the chat box there. And Eulene Advanced PT, Redwood City. So does anybody else have any physical therapists they've worked with that you'd recommend to the group? Okay.
And just a note, Amy Campasso at ABL Healthcare, she is in home health. She works for a home health agency. ABL Healthcare is a home health agency. And I have found that not everybody knows what home health is. Home health is a benefit that's provided by Medicare, where they will actually pay for a PT, OT, or speech therapist to come into the home or wherever the person's living, might be assisted living, and provide by Medicare funded PT, OT, and speech therapy. And this home health Medicare benefit is only available to people who are physically unable to leave the home, or where it presents a great hardship to leave the home. So in this sense, Medicare, rather than insisting that the person go off to a Stanford University or a UCSF for physical therapy, the physical therapy comes to the home or wherever the person's living. And Medicare pays for this as long as you have a doctor's prescription. And Amy Compasso is somebody who's very familiar. She's a physical therapist, very familiar with Parkinson's disease and atypical Parkinsonism. So she is an excellent resource for people in the community to know about.
Does Medicare, do they really limit the amount of visits people get though? I mean, is it?
They do. They're supposed, by law, they're not allowed to have a limit. There was
Okay.
a big lawsuit a few 10 years ago that was settled in favor of the plaintiffs. So Medicare lost that lawsuit. And what the lawsuit said was, no, Medicare, you cannot limit the amount of therapy that people are getting. Medicare was limiting it when people were not improving. And this lawsuit said that even if people aren't improving, Medicare must still provide this service. In practice, though, it's still limited to people who are improving. So in most cases, you can
Yeah,
still fight it some.
My wife is, we're going to Mission Oaks, which is part of the Good Samaritan hospital group. And they do limit it. I mean, she said we're limited, but you're right. If she needs something new, they'll continue it on. But if it's the same old thing she could do at home, then they stop, doing it. So I asked for more assistance for me, so I can, because my caretaker's been going, but I need more help now. So she's extended another four times. I think it's like 20 times a year or 25.
Yeah,
sessions a
in
year,
general. Yeah,
right?
I think it's
Yeah.
18 times a year. Yeah.
18. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. But you're right, it can. And every time, so my father, we would get it, usually we would work the system. And so we would get a neurologist referral, say in January or February, and we'd do PT, and we'd have our 18 visits of PT. And then when he declined further, of course he had PSP, so there was always decline. When he would decline further at the end of the year, we would ask the neurologist come October and November, oh, could you approve us for additional physical therapy because there's been new decline or a new situation, just as you said, Barry.
Okay. I have to look, I mean, unfortunately, look forward to that beginning of the year because we're almost done for the year. Yeah, it's not fun.
No.
No, it's not. That's for sure. So now Denise, let's see. Oh no, we went over all that, the advanced PT in Redwood City. Another Eileen suggested that. Moving on to speech therapists, Robin Megan Dupree.
Yeah, Megan Dupree is a terrific speech therapist. She's in a private practice in San Mateo, and she's very familiar with Parkinson's disease and all of the atypical Parkinsonism disorders. She's had many clients with PSP and CBD and MSA Lewy by dementia. She's spoken to conferences that we've hosted in the past. She's really terrific. And Denise just entered her contact information in the chat. So she's in a private practice.
Okay, and then Denise, you added Randy Hoffman in Palo
Yeah, a
Alto.
lot of the people in my support group are using Randy Hoffman's services. She's doing virtual visits now. I don't know if she's doing any in person or if she's switched or what, but Yeah, she's in Palo Alto, and she works out of Palo Alto Speech. I think that's her business name. And everybody says she's great.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
Knows what
she
she's
has she
doing.
been around a long time? I seem to remember that name.
You
Yeah.
probably, Bob probably saw her at Parkinson's Institute.
Yeah.
Institute. Yeah. She was there for a very long time.
Okay, that's why it sounds familiar. Okay, and then Julie Hicks at Stanford. Do you know about her then, Robin, as speech
Yeah, a
therapist?
lot of people recommend her. She's also excellent at Parkinson's disease. She's the only one at Stanford now doing the LSVT loud speech therapy for Parkinson's disease. And she's good all around. But unfortunately, Stanford's so busy now, you have to be seen by a Stanford neurologist in order to get in now to Stanford speech therapy.
Okay. And then moving on to movement disorder specialists. And Dr. Wong here is Denise. It's, well, no, I guess it's not Denise's suggestion. I would suggest Dr. Wong. He was my Bob's doctor, and he was at the Parkinson's Institute, which is no longer, I just found out from Robin. They unfortunately went out of business, but he's got a private practice, I believe. He's in Los Gatos.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah. Anyhow, he's fabulous. He's just the best. If you're looking to find a movement disorder specialist, to me, he's the best. We saw several different people, and he's wonderful. Such a caring, kind, he was just great. So I can't say enough good things about him. We always felt a little better leaving those appointments, and all he would do would be like, oh, tweak this little medication, oh, do this, do that. With MSA, there's, pretty quick decline and not a lot to be hopeful about typically, but we always just felt a little bit better after leaving those appointments with him. So, if nothing else, he just kind of raised our mood. So sometimes that's all you can get, so anyway, but he's great. So,
Well, and he also works well with other clinicians. He's a very collaborative doctor. So I have people who are seen at Stanford and UCSF. And I had one person at Kaiser, although it got kind of dicey afterwards. But he was great at consulting with either the movement disorder specialist or the neurologist that the patient was seeing as well, what he found.
yeah.
And you can get in very quickly with him too, unlike anywhere else right now. So
Yeah. And Denise, I guess you suggested having a general neurologist on board is a good idea too.
Yeah, we have a few of our support group members in Los Altos who were seeing the movement disorder specialists, maybe at Stanford. And then they had problems that were ongoing with things like blood pressure or, medication issues, new medication issues, and they just weren't getting a response from Stanford. I think if you message your doctor at Stanford, it literally says, we'll get back to you in 48 hours. And you're like, okay, I'm having a little more of an issue than that. So I suggested having a regular neurologist, like if PAMF is your regular medical group, have a neurologist at PAMF and then your movement disorder specialist. And if you can't get in touch with your movement disorder specialist right away, you have sort of a backup neurology member on the team that you could maybe get an answer from when you're having a difficult time as a caregiver, whatever the issue is.
Yeah. That's good advice. Yeah.
I think that's working better for her.
Yeah. Because there's nothing worse than, having that immediate need and then you just can't get a hold of anybody.
Yeah. You're swinging in the wind.
Right. Yeah. It's not fun.
Does anybody else have a neurologist or movement disorder specialist or dementia specialist they'd like to recommend?
My Gary was with Dr. Kit in San Francisco, 3838 California Street. He's the one that diagnosed Gary in 2000. And it turned out to be exactly what was wrong with him.
He's a general neurologist, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He said, looks like he has a different address now. It says 2250 Hayes Street.
Yes,
still
that was
there.
well, that was almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. But it's nice, sounds like he's still around, so that's
Still
good
around.
news.
Yeah.
We really like Dr. Rojas at UC San Francisco.
Is that a general neurologist?
Yeah, we actually got referred to him from Dominican or from Sutter here in Santa Cruz. But he is a neurologist, and yeah, we've seen him, and he was the one who actually diagnosed Diane, and we like him.
He is also my sister's doctor, and he was the one that diagnosed Anne.
Dr. Rojas?
Dr. Rojas, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
So is he at the Memory and Aging Clinic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and he's also involved in the clinical trial that Anne is a part of right now. He's not the head person in the clinical trial, but he is one of the main doctors in the program.
Julio.
Julio Cesar.
Mhm. Julio Rojas Martinez.
No, I like it.
Exactly.
He's still there too.
Yeah. Okay, and
And
moving on.
we love Dr. Kathleen Poston at the Stanford.
Who
She's
doesn't?
the movement
Yeah.
disorder.
Yeah.
What is your last name?
Poston.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, she's really good too. We
Thank
never
you.
went to her, but she's seen her at meetings and that sort of thing. Yeah.
And I'm not sure why Susan is not unmuting herself and talking, but she just texted me, Diana Bloom. I think she's in private practice, right?
She's a concierge doc.
She's
Yeah.
a concierge doctor, yeah. One of our group members, maybe two of them saw her, and it's not inexpensive because it's concierge service. I think I heard you give her like $10,000 for the whole year and she's all yours. But I think she also does have a waiting list at this time. And I think, medication adjustments, second opinion. I don't know how available she is to just, call on the fly because she's got a certain clientele.
Well, you can pay, not her because she doesn't have any availability right now, but in general, all these concierge doctors, you can pay like $750 for a initial consultation. And then they might consult with you one additional time for $150. Usually that's something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, they want you to pay the $10,000 a year, and then they give you great service.
Yeah.
Yeah, also understand though that beyond the retainer that you have for the doctor, most of them also charge you for appointments too. So
Oh,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
good to know, Stephen. Thank you.
Well, because I had two families actually that went the concierge route and were much happier because they always had a doctor available and the money wasn't a big issue.
Yeah.
But it became a big issue because they had to pay for appointments and they thought that was kind of petty after what they paid. So,
Yeah.
but there are some movement disorder doctors who are concierge. Dr. Blum is not, but she's a very good neurologist. Dr. Broman, Dr. Andrusta also have concierge practices in the area.
So let me ask you though, they don't do any billing, but if you're paying for the retainer plus the appointments, can you submit the appointment charges to your insurance?
No. Well, I guess you could if you have private insurance. Obviously, you can't do that with Medicare.
Well, they'd be out of network, obviously. If you have
Yeah.
an out of network, ability to do that, you might get some of it paid. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that is another option to think about if money is not that big an issue, because it is becoming increasingly difficult to get in front of a movement disorder specialist now.
Right.
As people are coming out of COVID, everybody is just swamped. And it's taking a very long time. So, I don't want to dissuade anybody. I still think seeing a movement disorder specialist is definitely worth it. But particularly the right one, and we have good ones. And the other group that wasn't mentioned here, and I always mention, is Kaiser. Kaiser may have reputations for different kinds of medicine, but their movement disorder centers around Northern California are excellent. Almost all of the physicians were trained at Stanford or UCSF. So, and some of them came here specifically so they could work at Kaiser. They like that model. So I always, when people tell me that they're not getting anywhere with Kaiser, it's like, well, ask more questions, because Kaiser is set up for that. So.
This is Chuck Berghoff. I apologize. I got in here late and I've been listening for a while. We have two neurologists we use at Kaiser. The primary one for Sue, my wife Sue, is with LBD, is Dr. Woods, who's also the head of the geriatric psychiatry department down here out of San Jose. And then Robin, I think you were the one that introduced us to Elena Call, who is both down in San Jose, but I think her base office is up in Santa Clara, and she is a movement disorder specialist as well.
Yeah, they're both excellent.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Chuck. All right, well, that's a pretty good list. Anybody else have anything? Okay, well, moving on to counseling. Stephen, you had a comment about San Mateo County Peninsula Family Service.
Yeah, so Peninsula Family Service, I have a link to their programs. And if you're in San Mateo County, it's a wonderful organization. They do lots of great work. But the social worker who facilitates one of my support groups is actually working there. And they now have a program in place funded by the Mills Peninsula Foundation to provide counseling to anyone over 55 in San Mateo County, either individual, couples, or family counseling. And it's 10 to 12 sessions, $15 copay. So no insurance billing, just $15 copay. And it's not really a clinical trial, but it's kind of set up like a clinical trial. They want to see what the interest is and how much interest there is. So when you go on, I included a link to the flyer, which is, I actually put it on BSN's page so I'd have a place to link to it because I couldn't find it anywhere else. But it's a really, I think it's, well, $15 for any amount of time with a good therapist is amazing. So they're really hoping they can, it's open to, as I said, anyone who's in San Mateo County who's over 55. So it could be a 55-year-old spouse and their 40-year-old spouse, as long as at least one person is 55. That's really kind of the goal they're looking at. And I think it's a great program. I've already had 2 of my caregivers in different groups sign up. And they've already had 1 counseling session each, and we're very impressed with the counseling. So just, I think it's a model that other foundations may develop, especially as we all know, coming out of COVID, it has been so rough, not only emotionally, well, especially emotionally, but just for everyone socially. People, I was out at a performance yesterday, and the way people were behaving, it's like no one ever acted like this before. I mean, they were just so
That's
rude
everywhere,
and thoughtless, and it was fine. I mean, most people finally, there's always people that are in the group that say, calm down, it's all going to be fine. And it was a great performance. It was really good. I'm really glad I went, but it's just things I would never see in the past, people behaving just really, really badly. So that's part of what they're trying to do, is figure out how to provide help for individuals and families, especially coming out of COVID, because it's just been really, really challenging for.
Now, do you know if the therapists, are they fully licensed, or
Yeah.
is it more of a volunteer program?
No, it's actually
Okay.
a fully licensed
Okay.
therapist. So.
Awesome.
So I think just, you know, again, it is only San Mateo County, so that's not helping people in Santa Clara County or San Francisco. But I think we'll see how that program goes. And I know Sutter has been thinking about a similar program, so we'll see if it actually develops too. So,
Okay, great. That's awesome.
yeah, it is. It's a great
Yeah.
deal.
Okay, so we have a couple notes here in the Palo Alto area. There's Diana Adams.
Yeah, she's a psychologist. She had a family member with, or has a family member with Parkinson's disease. She's a very skilled psychologist. And I often refer people to Jenny Frederick. She's a licensed clinical social worker. And Nina Paletica, she's a marriage family therapist. These are all good therapists that I recommend people to, either if people who have a neurological diagnosis or caregivers of those people. All three of them are excellent.
And they'll work with individuals or couples as well. So that's really helpful. Oftentimes, particularly now that we're on a caregiving call, oftentimes the patient is not always aware of what the issue is, but the caregiver is having a really tough time. So oftentimes I've had many people in my caregiver groups who went and saw one of these people, and then later on the spouse came too, so they could do couples, and it really helped. And all of them, as Robin said, are really knowledgeable about living with chronic conditions, particularly neurological problems. So it's really helpful. You don't have to, like we do in our support groups, we can just cut right to the chase. You don't have to explain a lot of things. They're very familiar with the dynamics. So it's a great resource, particularly when you're at the end of your rope or you're putting the rope around your loved one's neck.
Right.
Good time for
Exactly.
counseling.
Yeah.
I also highly recommend Elizabeth Lensberg is a gerontologist that is also very good with the correct medications for Lewy body and what not to give and what does work.
Okay, we'll add her. She's a geriatrician. We'll add her to the list.
And you can see her speaking quite a bit locally. She does a lot of different talks, especially on medication management and avoiding over medication for adults, seniors especially.
Yes, and she actually currently has an every Saturday at noon on Facebook.
Oh, wow. Okay. Great. Okay, Robin, it's 3:36. Do we want to keep going or do you want to wrap it up?
Let's see. We said we'd go till 4.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
saw.
I
Okay.
think we can finish. We'll just go faster.
Okay. All righty. So let's see. Where were we?
I think we're at
We
Denise.
had Wellspring and Blue Moon was a suggestion for therapy or for counseling therapy. I have a note.
Denise,
Denise.
you're on mute.
Sorry, my husband came in and I was trying to be quiet here. I had people ask me about counseling services that accept Medicare. And so I just did a web search and I found those two, Wellspring and Blue Moon. They're not local, they're sort of national, and they have people who are licensed to practice in, California. So, it's something to try. I don't know how skilled they are, but it's better than nothing. And Medicare, they do accept Medicare, both of them.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. So moving on to finding facilities. Robin, you're suggesting senior seasons. I'm going to talk about that a little bit.
Oh, yeah. We also want to go back to do the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I jumped over that. Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah.
Okay, so assisted living and board and care homes. So Denise, support group member Ann Connell's husband was well cared for at Sweet Little Home, and that's in Palo Alto.
Mm-hmm.
And
the owner of Sweet Little Home has another location in Los Altos, but I don't know what that one is called.
okay. All right. And then your mother-in-law is well cared for at Emerald Hill Care Home in Redwood City.
Yeah, she's there
Okay.
now.
Okay.
They primarily take non-ambulatory people at board and cares in general. But we had my mother-in-law parked there at this board and care for a little while in Emerald Hills. And we were just about to move her to Kensington Place, which is a memory facility, memory only. And in March of 2020, y'all know what happened, and that she didn't move anywhere, and they've been coping with her ambulatory at Emerald Hills for 2 years and adjusting, doing a great job, making her part of the family.
So you said that most board and cares take non-ambulatory people? Is that what you said? Oh, because there's one very close to me here, and they've got ambulatory people. So I didn't know that was, something that was unusual.
It's kind of a rule of thumb. They accept people and they're in each home on a case-by-case basis. And so if if they're licensed for 5 and they have maybe 1 ambulatory person and their staffing can handle it, or if they have 2 that aren't a lot of trouble, they're not trying to escape. My mother-in-law tries to escape. She's the only ambulatory person there. She's gotten away 2 or 3 times now.
Okay, so
and is Diane? Oh, Diane looks like she's left the call because she has a lot of care facility experience. So I'm sorry she's not still here. Does anybody else have any care facility? I don't think anybody else here does.
We've begun to develop it. Sue moved to the Loma Clara memory care unit in Morgan Hill here in the 1st of October. And so far it's just been wonderful. It's a relatively new facility. They unfortunately were just opening just as COVID hit, maybe that year before. And so that kind of put a wrench in the works there. They're pretty well open now. The staff is great. They have a lot of expertise there in-house with respect to dementias of various types. Facilities, as I said, relatively new. They have a chef there, and they have about a capacity of about 35 in the memory care side, which is pretty close to at capacity now, and about the same quantity for assisted living. And it's, from a personal standpoint, it's about 9 minutes away from the house. Our dog Winston, all 7 pounds of him, has become a real popular daily visitor there. We go in there in the morning and we go there in the afternoon, usually about an hour before each meal. That provides a very comfortable exit point when it's time for the meals. But the dog has an amazing impact on everybody there, not just the residents, but the staff. Kind of learned that from my sister, who did the same thing with my mother, who had Alzheimer's for about 4 years in a facility. And I suspect a lot of people don't know you can bring dogs into the facilities. In this case, on the assisted living side, you can actually have dogs living there with you. On the memory care side, of course, you can't. But it really brings a smile to everybody's face, and everybody wants to pet the dog. Everybody wants to hold them, and everybody will tell you, "Oh, when I was a little girl, I used to have a little dog just like this." And it's just it has an amazing impact on everybody. But anyway, I would very highly recommend Loma Clara. Very impressed with the staff. And what we did is, the first month, during the month of October, I maintained one of our caregivers, and she worked there on our behalf from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. every day. And that turned out to be a great transition for Sue. Also, Loma Clara has hired our caregiver since then, which I told them before we went there they would. I expected that was going to happen. She was very, very good. And she's now the assistant activity director for the assisted living side. And then I fill in any additional hours that she wants to work that week. I hire her just to spend a little bit more time with Sue. So we have her all day on Wednesdays, and then she stops in on the other days. So anyway, all good experiences. I did really get in there through what's called a patient care coordinator that was in the ER at Kaiser San Jose. Sue had fallen about 6 or 8 weeks ago, fractured her clavicle, and we spent about nine hours in the ER. And somebody said they're going to send the patient care coordinator over because they were trying to figure out what to do with her after they were going to discharge her. And she came over with a list and pointed out somebody she recommended that I talked to about looking at care facilities. I had actually for about 1.5 years been working with somebody, and they just finally came out and just said that we weren't going to find any really good places here in the South County. We're in the southern Santa Clara County. And so she recommended somebody else. The person that she recommended actually called me. It was like 8 o'clock at night in the ER there, and he called, and we arranged to get a tour of a number of facilities. And Loma Clara was the last one that he took us into, and it's been all very positive.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And I'm assuming Sue likes it too. Is she happy there?
Sue is happy there. I kind of realize I've actually learned a lot since she's been there, and it's really been in the last few weeks that I really started to kind of recognize the difference between my perception of how things were going and reality. I'll just put it that way bluntly. I was really under the subconscious denial. I just believed I was going to be able to keep her in the home forever. I had 2 caregivers. I was in the process of bringing in a third. And then I had what I now call the intervention that my family had. My sister and brother-in-law, he's a doctor, and they came and visited. And basically bottom line is they said, Chuck, you can't do this. This is not, you're not capable of keeping this going here in this house. It was not safe. And Sue, one of the things I've really come to appreciate is I'm able to step back and kind of look at the forest instead of the trees in terms of Sue's condition, and her cognition is in her memory is so much more serious than I really was recognizing. She immediately loved the place when we went in there. I usually leave when she's sitting down for a meal, and when I tell her it's time for Winston and I to leave to go get some errands done, she usually smiles, looks at me, and says, well, then get the heck out of here. And the food quality, the other realization I've come to is when I see the quality of the food, they actually have a large kitchen there for the assisted living and the memory care people. They've got a chef that's employed there full time. And when I see the quality of the food, it kind of struck me that I really didn't have time to cook for her. I didn't know how to cook. That was another issue. But she was lucky to get one sort of full meal for me a day. And she's getting 3 meals a day now of really good food. It's just plain really good food, and it's healthy. And so
Andy, we're
it's-
gonna need to move along because we got.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, that's good. I'm
Um,
glad to hear that. So this topic is finding facilities for, you know, our loved ones.
Yeah, so there are two quick resources. One that I recommend all the time is Senior Seasons at seniorseasons.com. And then one of our social workers at Stanford who facilitates Parkinson's group at Stanford recommends a company called New Home Senior Placement Assistance. And I'll post both of their links online. And Diane, by the way, had a care facility that her husband Gary was in. It's Bayview Villa, and they're in San Carlos. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay.
And also Senior Seasons did find that place for us.
Okay.
And recently I recommended somebody from the East Bay who asked me for recommendation. I told them I don't know how far their skills reach, but Senior Seasons did help them find a place in East Bay also recently.
Okay, great. All right. Oh, and the VA was mentioned here. Yeah, always check if somebody has veterans benefits. The VAs are really wonderful with respite care. And I don't know if they, what kind of memory services they have. Do you, Robin?
No.
Yeah, but I know we use the VA for my dad, and you know, they were great. Palo Alto facility particularly is just, it's amazing. It's gorgeous. So if you can tap into that, that's helpful too. Diane, you had a note about that Stanford's webpage about veterans in PD.
Oh, I think that's Denise.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, Denise. Yeah.
We just added a new page about veterans resources onto the Stanford website. So I'll put the link to that in the note to everybody.
Okay. Palliative care agencies. Robin, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, just real quick. So one palliative care agency we've heard about a lot, seems to have a good reputation, is PAMF, Palo Alto Medical Foundation in Palo Alto. You have to have a PAMF MD to provide a referral to that. And then another good one is UCSF. And similarly, you need a referral from someone at a UCSF physician has to provide a referral for
And
their.
there's a new social worker in coordinating the program now. And they're in the process. It's mainly offered, well, it can be offered in the home depending on the situation. There is a in-person palliative care location on Parnassus for UCSF. Most of the doctors now, most of the movement disorder specialists are now in the Mission Bay campus. So they still haven't quite worked out who's where. So that's in the process of changing. And it's besides requiring the referral, it's also well, pretty much the way anybody does palliative care. It's a care team approach. So everyone that they think is involved, depending on where the referral came from, will get together and decide the best services for the patient. And so there'll be an actual care plan put in place for the palliative care. And generally, palliative care is a good option for anybody with Parkinson's because it's a long-term disease and you want to focus on the best quality of life for the person, for the patient, but you also get some help as a care partner. So I've had several people in my daily city group who had loved ones at UCSF and were really happy with the care, and a couple of people at Kaiser too. Kaiser also has an excellent palliative care program.
Yep.
Okay,
We've used the Kaiser palliative care for a number of things down here out of San Jose, and they're excellent.
Okay. So, and then moving on to hospice agencies. Robin, you mentioned Mission Hospice.
Yeah, they're in from San Francisco down to Highway 85. They're one of the few, if not the only, nonprofit hospice agencies left in the Bay Area. They're terrific.
Okay, well,
Are terrific.
we use Sutter up here, and they're throughout the Bay Area. Are they for profit then? Is
They-
Sutter, you know?
They, I believe, are not for
Yeah,
profit.
I didn't think they were back then, but who knows?
Yeah.
Things change.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were fabulous, and a lot of the services we've talked about as far as counseling and oh, you know, the PT and all those kind, you know, home care. If you're ready to move into the hospice realm, I highly recommend it. I mean, we were on hospice for 2.5 years and went off and on hospice. When Bob needed to go to the hospital, it was really easy. They would come to the hospital, we'd sign him off hospice, he'd go in, he needed to be treated a lot for bladder infections. So he'd get these horrible UTIs, would become septic, so he'd have to be hospitalized. And anyhow, and then we'd come home, social worker would be here, we'd sign him back on, and it was just like, we always had the great, whatever service we needed, we had with them. I mean, it was just, I can't say enough good things about it. And I know that, you know, that there's kind of a fine line between palliative care and hospice care. I think palliative care, you can still be getting curative treatments, like you can still be getting chemo if you've got cancer, that sort of thing. But with most of these Parkinson's, like, or PD disease itself, there is no cure. So you're always treating symptoms. You're always, you know, there's no curative help going on, basically. So anyhow, I'm a big lover of hospice. So, and you can be on hospice for a long time. It doesn't have to be 6 months. They estimate until you die. Nobody can tell you when what that time frame is either. So anyhow, that's another really good thing to look into, and people put it off for too long.
They do.
Yeah. So, and then moving on here to adult care programs. Denise, you've got a couple, and so does Stephen.
I loved Live Oak Adult Day Program. They have 5 locations in Cupertino, San Jose, and Gilroy or Morgan Hill. I forget how far.
Gilroy.
south they go. Yeah. They throw a party for those people every day of the week. Really do. And they did calculations based on just my mom's income. So, you know, she was paying $60 or $80 for, oh gosh, about 6 hours of supervision and a snack sort of breakfast and a full lunch. In fact, my mom enjoyed it there so much after the day after her heart attack, and she's in the hospital. And she woke up in the morning and she asked if it was a senior center day.
Oh,
She just loved going there. They're great staff. And I chose it over Avenidas because Avenidas Rose Kleiner Center is an adult day health program. And so they have the activities, they have the meals, they have the supervision, social exchange, but they also have a PT on site, a nurse, probably OT, speech. And for a while, or at least I saw over there one time, a music therapist. So maybe that's a now and again thing, but my mom didn't need any of that. And so I thought, she's, the activities that they had at Live Oak were a little more in line with what she would be interested in, but they're both excellent programs.
so is that mostly though for memory care patients? Or, I mean,
yes, one of my good friends, some of you might know Faye Wiggins. She ran a young onset support group for many years, and her husband had young onset. And she asked him if he would go to the Live Oak in Cupertino because she needed a break, during the day. And when he left, he's kind of sad. And she asked him about it, and he finally got out. It's like kindergarten. So I think it does work a little bit better for people who have certain memory issues, because Lyle didn't.
right.
But still, yeah, it's
Yeah,
a great program.
it's a good resource. And then Stephen, you had a couple suggestions?
Yeah, so Rosner House in Menlo Park, which is wonderful. If you ever get a chance, if you're in the area and you ever get a chance to visit, it's a wonderful campus. and the staff they have are just superb. And it's one of the few places I've gone, mainly memory care type patients there, but it's one of the few places I've been where everyone is smiling. I mean, literally everyone is smiling. They're all having a great time. Even the people who aren't that engaged are at least slightly engaged. So, so what Denise mentioned about getting a break, it's wonderful for people, particularly when they're dealing with cognitive issues or behavioral issues, although behavioral issues can sometimes be a no-go for being able to attend. It really depends. But they're really fair there about giving everyone an equal shot to enjoy themselves and figuring out what is the best. They have art programs, all kinds of great things. And then I mentioned, hadn't really shared with Denise or Robin, but in my support group, I now have 2 people who are at the Institute on Aging's program, which is reopened at the Presidio in San Francisco, and it's just a superb program. Both people were not responding. They were in rock steady boxing and kind of fading away and not really wanting to be social at all. And now they're willing to ride, have some kind of transportation program to take them. It's like, no, I'm going. And the spouses hardly ever have to go. And they start maybe at 1 day a week, and now both of them are up to 3 days a week. So it's an excellent program, really, really good program.
Okay.
I have
and
to
then-
say goodbye now. It's time
Okay.
for Hokey Pokey, and we're doing it Sundays only. So bye, y'all.
All right. Good to
This
see you,
was
Diane.
wonderful. Thank you.
Hi,
Have
Diane.
fun. Okay, and then moving on, we just have a couple more things here. Transportation, Stephen, you have a suggestion here.
Well, I have several links for those are generally arranged. Transportation agencies can be arranged through the transportation agencies like Samtrans or VTA or Muni. And then there are also for-profit or mainly nonprofit companies that also offer services. So I provided just some links that have worked out well for my family members. Generally, you have to plan a day or 2 in advance, and you have a specific time for people to come. And for the most part, I don't know now, I haven't really had a whole lot of people that have been using them because of COVID. But for the most part, they are generally pretty reliable. The other thing to think about is a lot of senior centers, I didn't mention this, but a lot of senior centers now have discount programs with Lyft or Uber to
Right,
provide door-to-door transportation. So
but they would do some of these other things you've mentioned here that we put up. Do they help? I mean, like, it's like getting from the house to the car sometimes.
yeah, that's a big issue. And so
Yeah.
that's why sometimes you have to arrange in advance. So you always have to arrange in advance, but particularly.
Right. But do they offer that kind of, I mean, like a little assistance to get to the car, I guess, because I know Lyft and Uber would not do that.
Yeah, no, it's like
Yeah.
you have to get them there.
Yeah, okay. All right, and then home elevators, if anybody's interested in that, we have a resource, Pacific Access Elevators. They're out of Redwood City. We'll put that up there on the notes. And then Mindfulness, MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction programs. Robin, you've got a couple resources here.
Yeah, so PAMF again, and Palo Alto and Mountain View both offer mindfulness-based stress reduction programs. Stanford does. Stephen notes that at San Francisco, the Zen Center in San Francisco.
Yeah, they have both free programs and paid programs. So they
excellent.
have kind of drop-in programs as well as long-term. You can sign up and really go deep into it. I have several caregivers in my daily city group who are actually, I have a Zen Buddhist and a couple of other Zen masters who have kind of dragged the whole group. Well, I wouldn't say drag, encouraged the whole group to join. And they have some really excellent public programs as well. Really interesting things. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, and then last but not least, this is actually a very practical thing. A handyman for safety bars, et cetera, somebody that will install that sort of equipment. Home Safety Services. Martin Semnick, I guess is his name, is the owner, and his number.
Yeah, he's very good. And so he's a CAPS, a certified aging in place specialist. And that's really anytime you hire a handyman or contractor, it'd be best to get a CAPS certified aging in place specialist. And that's what he is. And I'll post his information to the chat. And that's it.
Okay, everybody. Well, thanks for attending. I think that wraps it up.
We made it.
We made it. We made it. Yeah. So, thanks again. And everything will be up on our website, on the Brain Support Network website. And how about Parkinson's and Stanford Parkinson's?
website.
Yeah. So it'll be up on that as well. And so thanks everybody again, and we'll see y'all soon. Bye.
Right.
Bye. Bye. Thanks, Candy. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, Candy.
Oh, yeah.
You did great.
Mhm.
No.